Hello everyone, how's it going? This is a review of chapter 1136 of One Piece. Before we begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel. And now without further ado, let's get right into the review. First, of course, we have the cover page, and in this week's cover page, we see that Yamato and the gang have found a mysterious base in Udon. I wonder who this base could possibly belong to. If I had to guess, I am thinking it's probably Page 1 and Ulti, or maybe even Wanze, why not? But I guess we will have to wait and see, since there's no way to really tell whose base this is. It could literally be anybody. So for now, we have no choice but to move on to the main chapter, I suppose. Who could this base possibly belong to? Let me know in the comments. We start off the main chapter with the Straw Hats enjoying the feast with the giants. We see Luffy eating the meat from the moose that Hyruddin and Stanson caught a few chapters ago. And it's here that we find out through Chief Yarul that it's rare for humans to come up to the Sun World, because they usually run away after arriving in the underworld due to the fact that they don't know how to get up to the Sun World and just assume that the underworld is actually all there is to elbaf. After that, we see that Usopp is doing what he usually does in a feast setting, which is to say, spinning the stories of the things that the Straw Hats have done into ones where he is the primary contributor, and in this case, he is using the story of their fight with Ozan Thriller Bark. Meanwhile, we see that the giants are fascinated by Jimbei because it's their first time seeing a fishman, with one of Rodo's buddies over there talking about wanting to see a mermaid one day, to which Sanji responds by saying that the mermaid's inlet is like heaven on earth, despite the fact that he almost went straight to hell when he visited it. Although thankfully for Sanji, he is cured of his condition now, so he can at least enjoy being surrounded by giant women. After which we move on to Nami's group, where we see that the giants are curious about Brook, since he is, a moving skeleton, yo ho ho ho. He doesn't really give them a proper answer, and just says that he's got the water my blues. Although the giants seem to like it, so I guess it's whatever. Meanwhile, Nami and Zoro seem to be surprised by the fact that not all giants are seafarers. After which a beaten up Rodo pops in to apologize to them for his prior actions, because Gerd persuaded him to do so. And of course the pervert enjoyed her persuasion. Zoro just tells him that it's fine since nobody died, although he clarifies that that wouldn't have been the case if Usopp hadn't stopped him, since Rodo would have been beheaded. Rodo gets frightened by this, with the other giants telling him that he wouldn't stand a chance against the Straw Hats if they were serious. Gerd also chimes in by telling Zoro that he can feel free to end Rodo the next time he tries anything. After which, Rodo states that becoming the Sun God and ruling the world is a dream that everyone born in Elbaf has. After he says that, we find out that apparently the mythos of the sun god on Elbaf is up to interpretation because of the fact that even though the ancient religious text called Harley, in which Nika is mentioned, continues to be passed down, there is no one alive in the present age that can actually translate the text. Although Yarul mentions that according to the Harley, the One Piece world has apparently been destroyed twice in the past. I'm going to guess that that has something to do with the cleansing that the Gorosei mentioned during the Reverie arc. He also mentions that the presence of Nika is somehow closely tied to both of those occasions, stating that because of the lack of translations, they have no way of knowing exactly how Nika is connected to the end of the world, whether he's the hero or the destroyer. Also stating that Nika appears when the world is about to undergo a great transformation, which is why the great and mighty of the age fear his arrival. He also mentions the physical appearance of Nika to Luffy, and upon hearing it, as expected, Luffy says that he understands why people always say that he reminds them of Nika, but he personally does not believe that this whole thing has anything to do with him. After which, Yarul hypothesizes that both Loki and the late King Harold are and were trying to be like Nika, although the other giants tell him not to rationalize Loki's actions in such a way. At which point, Luffy decides to just ask them if Loki is a good guy or not, to which everybody, old and young, immediately says absolutely not, once again stating that he is the accursed prince, also stating that apparently Harold already prophesied his own death at the hands of his own son, mentioning that Loki killed the royal family's lucky horse shortly after being born, in the same year that Big Mom killed Yorul in her flashback. Apparently even the queen passed away just a year after Loki was born, also mentioning that Loki went into the underworld as a child and made it his playground, using his innate strength to kill and control the vicious beasts down there, and then unleashing them on the villages. And Loki also apparently, living up to his namesake, staged many other pranks like arson and devastation, using his status as a prince, coupled with his cruel personality, to make life hell for everyone on Elbaf whenever King Harold wasn't around to stop him, until he eventually killed King Harold in his own castle. After that, we also find out that Yarul was actually there and tried to stop Loki, and that was also when he got stabbed through the head with the sword, although he once again insists that his helmet stopped the sword. It's also mentioned that Shanks was actually the one who caught Loki when he was rampaging out at sea. Luffy gets excited when he hears Shanks' name and asks the giants about him being in Elbaf, to which the giants reply that he was around a little while ago, but they don't know where he went off to. Zoro notices Luffy's excitement and takes him to the side to ask him what's going on. So Luffy tells him about his deal with Loki, and Zoro tells him that he is most likely being manipulated by him. And Loki probably doesn't even know where Shanks is. Although Zoro also says that he is just assuming things, since he doesn't personally know Loki. So he suggests that they should get the keys for Loki's cuffs, and then decide whether to release him after hearing him out. Nami sees them trying to sneak out, and decides to tag along. Because of course, these two idiots aren't getting to any location without her help. Rodo is also with her, because he is apparently now her servant. Zeus makes sure to establish the hierarchy properly by letting Rodo know that Zeus is the number 1 servant and Sanji is number 2, thus making Rodo servant number 3. Apparently, Nami tamed him by zapping him a number of times, although it probably wasn't that hard to do, to be honest. He then tries to close the distance between him and Nami by bringing up the fact that they are both navigators, but she tells him to never try to do that ever again. Nami says she feels bad about taking Luffy away from the feast, but Rodo tells her that the giants are so hammered that they probably won't even notice that they were gone, or even remember what the feast was for. After which we find out the real reason why Nami tagged along with them. And as you would expect, it is to check up on the treasure in the Elbaf castle, you know, just to make sure it's all safe. In fact, it might even be better if they just store all of it on the Sunny. After all, there is no place safer than an Emperor's ship, am I right? After that, we move on to the final part of the chapter, where we see that the two intruders are no longer in the castle, and have now found Loki in the underworld. And it seems that they informed Loki of something off screen, and then invited him to join the knighthood as a solution to whatever they told him. So I am guessing whatever it was they told him, it's not going to be a good thing for Loki. Loki then tells them that while he understands their point, he still won't be joining them, going as far as to say that he won't stoop to the level of trash like them, then asking them if they are celestial dragons. After which, Shanks, in quotation marks, asks the girl where she got her info from. She responds that it was from the last transmission that the agents dispatched to Elbaf sent, before being wiped out, I am guessing. They only told her that a giant crow had appeared on Elbaf, so I guess maybe the revolutionaries are also making a move. She then says that that's all she knows and that they don't have any dirt on Loki that they can use to force him to join. We then finally get an introduction to this girl. Apparently, she is a holy knight by the name of Gunko, and based on her appearance, I am guessing she is either 15 years old or younger, because that's just how Oda does things. We also see that she can apparently turn her body, or at least her arm, into an arrow-like entity of some sort. And by that I mean the directional kind, not the weapon kind. She says that after meeting Loki, she has realized that he is just supremely insolent, and says that they should just erase him. Shanks tells her not to get ahead of herself. They then get attacked by one of the monsters under Loki's control, a giant wolf. Loki tells the wolf to gobble them up, but of course, it doesn't really stand much of a chance, because Gunko just uses her arrow to wrap around the wolf's neck and strangle it. Loki appears to be concerned for the wolf. Shanks sees that, and tries to use the wolf's life to renegotiate Loki joining the Knights. Loki says that if that's the case, then the wolf will simply have to die, saying that a warrior doesn't quibble and whine about the way of his death, and that he will feed on the rage from the wolf's death and use it to bring the world to ruin. And that's how the chapter ends. All in all, this was a very good chapter of One Piece, where we found out some interesting information. The most important of which being that the Holy Knights want to recruit Loki into the knighthood, and that he doesn't view them in a very positive light. We also now know that apparently Zoro, Luffy and Nami are going to steal the handcuffs as well as safeguard the treasure from the castle in order to maybe release Loki depending on how things go. So I guess we'll find out what's going to happen with that soon enough. And with that in mind, I guess I will see you in the next review. Make sure to like and subscribe. Bye bye.